Hey guys, Jared here, and in continuation of the AlamoFire plus the Spotify API tutorial series, we're going to go ahead and grab album art and put it inside of our application. Then in the next part of this, which will be coming tomorrow, we will be going over how to play the 30-second preview for the song that you click on. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is there's an error that pops up now, and I think this is from a Swift update that just recently happened, but either way, there's an error now, and here's how you fix it. So with this, we have let item equal items I right here. Basically what this is saying right here is there's no reference to a member subscript. So the way we fix this, just to be plain and clear, is we have if let items equal tracks items as, and then we're just going to go ahead and set this equal to an array of JSON standards. And then now down here with our item here, as we grab from that array of JSON standards, we don't need that as a JSON standard as it's pretty much already stated. So yeah, that's how you fix the error. Now let's go ahead and grab some album art. So first off, we need to determine, just like we did with our name right here, how we grab that album art. So we need to go ahead, go down here, and I'm going to print out my item. So I'm going to go ahead and say print items. So now we can see what's inside of each of these items and how I access that album art URL. So let's go ahead, build and run this. Alright, so here inside of our console, you can see that there's lots of information that's coming in from each of these items. So what we're specifically trying to find is this images right here. So your images are, as you can see, it's very hard to tell sometimes, but you can see that it's embedded inside your album, and then it's inside of your images here. And then we need to go ahead and grab the URL for the image. Now you can pick which image you want. I'm going to pick the highest quality image because I think it just looks the best, but you can pick whatever you want. If you want the medium quality one, that's this one. But either way, let's go ahead and try implementing that album art to our project. So the way we do this is, as you can see right down here, it's embedded inside that album. So just as we did up here with the tracks, we need to go ahead and reach inside of that item and get the album, and then go in there and then get the images. So it's pretty much the same idea here. So we're just going to go ahead and say if let, and this is going to be my album, equal, and then I'm going to set this equal to my item, open bracket, close bracket, and then this will be my album. So I'm going to grab that specific key phrase out of the JSON that's being provided. So now let album equal item album, and then this is going to be as question mark a JSON standard. Then open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Now we need to grab the images outside of that album. So we need to go ahead and say if let images equal, and I'm going to go ahead and say my album, and then open bracket, close bracket, and inside of here we're going to go ahead and put in our images. And like we're trying to grab that specific key phrase out of there. So images, this is the specific key phrase there. But this time, as you can see, there's multiple images stored inside of that images. So we need to go ahead and say as question mark, and this is going to be an array of my JSON standard, like so. And then just say open curly bracket, close curly bracket. So inside of these images right here, I'm just going to go ahead and say let my image data, because we're just going to grab the data coming from that. And this is going to be my first image. So the data that's coming through is the height, the URL, and the width. We want to specifically grab that URL, but we'll do that in just a second. So we're going to go ahead and say let my image data equal, and I'm going to go ahead and set this equal to my images, open bracket, close bracket, and this will be 0. So we're just grabbing the first image out of there. Now if you want to grab the second, the medium quality image, you can put 1, and you can grab the last one if you put 2. I'm going to keep it at 0. Then with this image data that we're grabbing, we're going to go ahead and say let my main image URL equal, and I'm going to go ahead and set this equal to my image data, open bracket, close bracket, and then of course we're going to be grabbing the URL out of that. And then now we can go ahead and take that URL and load it up into image data, and then apply that and put it as an image. I'm going to say let my main image data equal, and I'm going to set this equal to ns data, open parentheses, and then this one is going to be the contents of URL. Now, of course, we need to grab that URL, which is this one right up here. But the problem with that is that's not a true URL. That's just a string. So we need to convert this into a URL. So I'm going to say URL, open parentheses, and then inside of here you're going to put string colon, and then you're going to grab the image data from that. So URL, string, colon, and then we have this string that's coming from that. And, oh yeah, we want to go ahead and say as a string, like so. And we should be good to go there. And then down here with our main image data, we can say ns data contents of URL. And now we can go ahead and put in our main image URL. And now we're going to go ahead and take this image data that we're grabbing from the internet, and we're going to go ahead and load that up into our image. So we're going to say let my main image. So this is finally grabbing the image out of all this stuff that we're doing, out of the grabbing the data and the URL and all that, will be equal to my UI image, open parentheses, and then this is going to be the one that says data right here. And then we can finally load in my main image data, like so. And then of course there's a difference between NSData and data, but the best way of going about this is just to say as data at the end of this, and we're good to go. Hang on, just gotta close Xcode because it's being annoying. All right, and now finally that we have this main image, we wanna go ahead and load it up into our table view. Now the way we do this is, right now we have it so var names is equal to an array of strings right here, is the thing that we're loading into our project. But in fact, that is not how we want it to be done. We want to go ahead and go up here, and we're going to create a structure. So I'm going to say struct, and in this it's saying a name and a field. So essentially what a structure is, it's exactly how it sounds. There's a structure to this array that I want to add, or there's this structure that's needed in order for something to happen. So for instance, if I have this structure right here, I'm going to go ahead and say struct my name will be equal to exactly like a post. So this is going to be the structure of a post. So in this structure of a post, we need the name of the project, we need the image, and we also need the preview URL. So with this post right here, we can go ahead and put in all that in. So I'm going to go ahead and say let my image colon, and then this is going to be equal to a UI image, and then exclamation point at the end right there. Now after this, I want to have the name of it. So I'm going to go ahead and say let my name colon, and I'm going to go ahead and put in a string variable. And then lastly, we want the preview URL, but this is nothing we need to worry about right now. That will be added in tomorrow's lesson. Let's go ahead and worry about the image and the name. Now with this down here, we have var names will be equal to an array of strings like that. I'm going to go ahead and say var my posts will be equal to an array, and then I'm going to go ahead and set this equal to an array of my post structure right here. And there you have it. Now we get a couple of errors because we have names.append and all this stuff. So right now we're going to go ahead and change this up right down here first. We're going to say number of rows in section will be equal to my posts.count. We're going to count the amount of posts inside of that array. And then we also want cell.textLabel, and then this is going to be my, and this one gets a little bit confusing. So let's just go ahead and comment that out right now because we're going to do something different with this. Now let's go ahead and continue on up here where it says names.append. We're going to go ahead and say posts.append. And then we're going to append a new element. And in this case, we want to go ahead and say my post.init. And then inside of this, you want your main image and your name. So with your main image now, this is going to be this. So really, we're appending this in the wrong place. So I'm going to take this, copy that, and then I'm going to paste this right up here. And then also with our self.tableview.reload data, we're going to take that as well. And we're going to paste that right in there as well. And then now with our main image, we're appending this into our array of posts. So I'm going to go ahead and take that image that we have right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my main image. And then for the name of this, we're still going to be using that name. So let's just go ahead and put that right in there. And voila, now we're taking everything in there, the album art, the name, and we're loading them into our posts. Now we need to go ahead and make these show up onto our table view. So this gets a little bit interesting because we need to go over here to our main.storyboard now. And instead of having the cell.textLabel.text as we were having earlier, we need to go ahead and customize what our cell would look like. So what we're going to do is go ahead and add in the image view. So I'm going to go ahead and take this, and let's go ahead and take an image view and add that onto our scene like so. And then we're going to resize this so to something that you like. I want it to be a square aspect ratio, if anything, so that's the main thing I'm looking for. So a width of 74 and a height of 74 looks good to me. And then now I'm also going to take this and add a UI label onto there. So I'm going to take this UI label on there as well. And we're just going to go ahead and pop that right out there so it fills the whole scene like that. And now we can go ahead and take this image view and let's add some constraints. So I'm going to go ahead and say aspect ratio. We're going to maintain the aspect ratio of this image view. We're going to go ahead and say leading space, top space, and then bottom space to container margin. Then between this label and the image view, we want to go ahead and say there's some horizontal spacing going on there. And then we also want some trailing space to container margin going on there as well. Now we're still getting red, so another thing we need to do is center vertically inside of that container. And now we are all good to go constraints-wise. Now we need to go ahead and access this and put some things onto it, including the image and the name onto these labels and the image view. So with this label right here, we're going to go ahead and say the tag. We're going to go ahead and add a tag of 1 to that. That's right over here in your attributes inspector. And then with our image view right over here, we're going to go ahead and add a tag of 2 to that. So now we have a custom table view cell. So now let's go ahead and add some data, the data that we're grabbing, onto that. Now the way we do this is fairly simple. So we're going to go down here to our cell for row at index path, and you recognize this thing that I commented out. We're just going to go ahead and delete that completely because we don't use it anymore. Now we need to reference those views that are inside of our cell. So first off, we want to go ahead and grab the image view. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to call this my main image view, since we're sticking with the main. I don't know why, but we're going to go ahead and say let my main image view equal, and I'm going to say cell.view with tag. The tag of my main image view was 2, so I'm going to go ahead and take that. Now this view that I was grabbing, it doesn't know that it's a UI image view, so we're not going to be able to add things on like we would want to, so we need to go ahead and say as a UI image view, just so that as we're programming it knows that. Now down here we also want to go ahead and reference that label that we took, and we're going to say let my main label equal. I'm going to go ahead and set this equal to my cell.view with tag. This is going to be my view with tag 1 as a UI label. And voila. Now let's go ahead and take those images and everything that we're grabbing from there, and let's add it on there. So we're going to go ahead and say my main image view dot image will be equal to, and I'm going to go ahead and take that from my posts. So I'm going to say posts, open bracket, close bracket, and inside of here we're going to go ahead and take the value of actually our index path dot row. So for every row there is a specific image that corresponds with that row inside of our table view. Then we say dot, and we're going to grab that main image out of our posts array. Now we want to go ahead and do this exact same thing with our main label. So I'm going to go ahead and say my main label will be equal to, and I'm going to set this equal to my posts, open bracket, close bracket, and then this is going to be, of course, my index path dot row, and then dot, and then we're going to take the name here. And actually I forgot to say main label dot text. Sorry about that. So main label dot text will be equal to the name inside of my posts. Now if we were to build and run this, we should be able to see that our posts are going to load up and everything is going to work properly. Now one specific thing I want to point out here that I kind of rolled over a little bit is we're going to go ahead and load everything up, including the image data and everything, and then we're going to go ahead and say my self.tableView.reload data. So if you put it out here, you will have a blank screen. Like, it's not going to load up properly. So you always want to make sure that this is at the end process of everything you do. So I'm reloading the data inside of my table view after everything is done. Now let's go ahead, build and run this, and let's see what we have. All right, so as you can see, it's a blank screen right now, but it's actually loading the data in the background. So it should load up, and voila. Now we have it, so all of the album images are actually loading up inside of our table view, and everything is working perfectly. Now the next thing I want to do here is we're going to go ahead and transfer this album art that we have over to another view controller. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and close up my assistant editor, and what I'm wanting to do is make this transfer directly over to the other view controller. Alright, so the way we're going to go about this is, first off, we need to have a navigation view controller. So we're going to go ahead and put a navigation view controller inside of there, and it should create that navigation controller with a root view controller. Go ahead and delete that root view controller, and then we're going to go ahead and right click or control click and drag from this navigation controller over to this table view controller, and we're going to go ahead and say root view controller, like so. And then now with this arrow right here, this is saying this is the initial view controller. I'm going to move that over to my navigation controller, because what we want is a simple push animation over to the other view controller. That's just how I want it to be. So now, continuing on with this, I'm going to also add a UI view controller onto the end right here. So this is going to be your final view controller. So in this place, we're going to be controlling the media that is played, as well as we're going to be displaying the album art and the name in a funner way. So first off, the way we do this is I'm going to go ahead and take this image view that I have right here. I'm going to go ahead and take an image view and click and drag that all the way out to the edges. Now I'm doing this mainly for artistic style. So take this So take it early, but this is how I'm going to do it. But I'm going to take this image view and let's go ahead and set up some constraints. So I'm going to right click or control click and drag from this over to my view over in the hierarchy right here. I'm going to say equal widths, equal heights, and center vertically and horizontally. So this UI image view is going to be the background image view per se. Now with this image view, let's go ahead and take the content mode right here. I'm going to change the content mode instead of scale to fill, otherwise, because that would distort the album image art, and we don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is my aspect fill. Now with this, I'm going to add some artistic flair to this, I'm going to add a visual effect view with blur. So I'm going to go ahead and take that visual view effect with blur right here, and I'm going to click and drag that so it's just covering all of that image view that we have in the background. And that's just going to blur that image. It just makes it look cool. So we're going to go ahead and go with that. Now with this visual effect blur right here, I'm going to go ahead and take this and right click or control click and drag from it to my view. And again, I'm going to apply some constraints to this. So equal widths, equal heights, center vertically and horizontally. And now before we go any further with this, the way we transfer over to this view controller is we right click or control click and drag from the cell that we have right here over to our view controller, and we can just say show. And it's just going to go ahead and move right over to that view controller. Now continuing on with this view controller, what I'm wanting to do is add an image view right smack dab in the center there. We're going to mess with the aspect ratio in just a second, but also I want to add a label just underneath that. And then we'll add some buttons, but that's in the next part of this series. Now let's go ahead and take this image view. I'm going to click and drag that out like so. I'm trying to make it so it's a square aspect ratio. So if you want to go over here to your size inspector, you can set your width equal to, say, 240 and a height of 240. Do whatever you want there. Now with this UI image view right here, I'm going to put it right up there per se. I think that sounds good. So I'm going to go ahead and say leading spaced in container, trailing spaced in container, and top spaced in container. And then we're also going to go ahead and maintain the aspect ratio there. Now that should be good. Now I'm going to take this UI label right here. I'm going to go ahead and make the color of it equal to white. And then also with the font right here, I'm going to change the font over to a custom font. I like the look of Helvetica Neue with the style of light. So that's just a very light kind of text, and I think it looks nice. So now I'm going to take that label, click and drag it out to the sides. And then I'm also going to click and drag it so it's right up against that UI image view right up there. And then I'm also going to say, because the names of songs can go a little bit long, so I'm going to go ahead and take this, go over to my attributes inspector, and with this we have the lines. So I'm going to make sure that it goes up to 2 lines instead of my label. So now we can go ahead and type in a bunch of random words in there, and that's how it's going to look when we build and run the application. So that is pretty much it for the UI label right there. Oh, another thing we need to do is I'm going to center that text. And there we go. Now let's go ahead and add some constraints to it. So I want to keep the same vertical spacing between that and the image view. I'm going to go ahead and say leading spaced in container, trailing spaced in container, and then I want to maintain that height that we give it. So there we have it. So now it's going to present that image that we load right up here into this image view at the background view, and then we're going to load the name right there. Now let's go ahead and say file, new, file. And now we're going to create a Swift file so that we can actually control some of the elements on this scene. So this is going to be a Swift file saying next. I'm going to call this my audio VC. So this is going to be the place where we control the audio that is being played. So now we have the audio VC.Swift. Now let's go ahead and add a class. So we have the class. This will be equal to my audio VC. And then we need to go ahead and import our framework of UI kit like so. And then with the superclass, now that we have that UI kit framework, we go ahead and use the UI view controller superclass. And then we want to have a view.did_load function inside of this. Now let's go back over here to our main.storyboard and let's connect that file that we just created. Actually, by going back over here, we want to make sure that we have this saved. If it's grayed out, it's not saved, so you want to make sure that you have it saved. So hit Command S to save your file. But you're going to go back over here to your main.storyboard, click on the view controller, head over here to your identity inspector, go to the class, and we're going to go ahead and set this equal to my audio VC, like so. And now anything that we put inside of that audio VC.Swift will edit that view controller. Now let's go ahead, open up our assistant editor like so. And now we're going to connect some of these elements that we have on our scene. So first off, we have the image view in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and right click, control click and drag from that and I'm going to say background. Then we have our image view right here. So with this image view right here, I'm going to go ahead and call this my main image view. And then lastly, we have the text that comes here, and this is going to be my song title. So I think that's good to go. With our background and our main image view, these are both the same images. So we want to go ahead and create a new variable up here, and this will be my image. And then I'm going to go ahead and set this equal to a UI image, open close parentheses like so. Then with our song title, we also need some song title to go with that label. So I'm going to go ahead and say var my main song title will be equal to a string value. And we're going to, of course, pass that over from the table view that we just selected. So now that we have all of that hooked up, we need to go back over here to our viewController.swift. And now we're going to go ahead and pass some data over to that view controller. So the way we do this is we go back over here to our viewController.swift. Then we want to go ahead and call a function called prepareForSegue. Now inside of our prepareForSegue here, we want to go ahead and grab an index path from, you know, exactly what table cell we're going to be grabbing. So we're going to go ahead and say let my index path equal, I'm going to set my index path equal to myself dot table view, or index path for selected row right there. So we're going to say index path for just selected row dot, and then we're going to grab the row. So we're going to say index path for selected row dot row. Now with this index path that we're grabbing, we want to go ahead and grab the specific post out of all of our posts that we have in that table view. And we also want to pass that along to our next view controller. So the way we do that is we want to go ahead and create a view controller. So I'm going to say let VC equal, I'm going to go ahead and set this equal to my segue.destination. So this is going to be the destination for our prepareForSegue right here. So there you have it. Now with this, I know my segue is going to be my audio view controller. So I'm going to say as my audio VC. This is that file that we just created. So now I'm taking that segue destination as an audio VC, and now I'm able to grab specific elements out of that second view controller. So I'm going to go ahead and say my VC dot, let's go ahead and say my image. So I want the image. I'm going to go ahead and set that equal to, let's say, my posts, open bracket, close bracket, my index path. I'm going to take that index path dot, and then we're going to grab the main image from our posts array. And with this index path, it just wants an exclamation point at the end there, but we should be good to go. Now after this, we want to go ahead and say my VC dot, and in this I want to also pass along the name of my song title. So this is going to be with the string right here with the main song title, and I'm going to go ahead and set that equal to my posts for the index path dot, or index path exclamation point dot, and then this will be my name, as you can see. So now when I click a cell, it's going to be passed over to that view controller. Now let's go ahead and set up these images, all the text and stuff inside of our view did load. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and set my song title. So this is the song title label dot text will be equal to my main song title. And then after this, I want to go ahead and take that image that I have right there, and I'm going to apply that to the background view as well as the main image view. So I'm going to go ahead and say my background dot image will be equal to my image, and then also with this I'm going to go ahead and say my main image view will be equal to my image dot image. So my main image view dot image will be equal to my image. Now let's go ahead and build and run this, and there's still an error that's waiting for us, but we should have it, so we presented the album art quite nicely on the next view controller. So let's go ahead and check it out. Alright, so now that it has loaded, you can see that we have all of the stuff inside of there. Now when I click on this, it's just going to move over to that next view controller, and as you can see, there's that blurry background. It looks nice, but there's still this error of when I scroll back, you'll notice that the image in the background is popping out, and when I swipe all the way, it just pops off the screen. So that's not something we want. So the way I fix this is I'm going to go over here to my background view, and we're going to go over here to our attributes inspector, and we're going to go ahead and check mark this clips to bounds. So now it's going to cut off the rest of the image that's not showing properly. So now we should be good to go with our project. So let's check it out. All right, so here we have it. Click on one of these things. Boom, there you have it, and there's no more of that weird image thing going on. But as you can see, it's presented nicely. Anyway, there you have it. That is how you grab the album art, and that is how you load it up into your view controller. In the next part of this, we're going to go ahead and learn how to play that music, or play the preview URL that's coming from the Spotify API. Anyway, if you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that like button down below. It helps out the channel a lot. Anyway, have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. She was looking kinda dumb with a finger and her thumb in the shape of an L on her forehead. No, you don't stop coming and you don't stop coming. Dum-dum-dum, let me hit the ground running.